Welcome back to the deep dive. We often talk about AI, the speed, the investment, all the breakthroughs, but today we're going to cut through some of that, well, the market hype, and dive into something maybe more fundamental, the human reaction. Because when you look at the global picture, the main feeling isn't really excitement. It seems to be, well, caution. Quite profound caution, actually.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That cautious feeling. It's really the headline finding from the spring 2025 Global Attitude Survey. That's the big Pew Research Center study.
Ah, the Pew Survey.
Right. And it gives us this really comprehensive look, public opinion across 25 countries.
25, okay.
Yeah, covering 6 major regions:
Yeah.
Asia Pacific, Europe, Latin America, Middle East, North Africa, North America, and Sub-Saharan Africa. Really global.
So a proper snapshot. And what's interesting, you said caution, but it's not like people haven't heard of AI, right?
Not at all. Awareness is actually pretty high. Across those countries, a median of 34% of adults said they've heard a lot about AI.
A third, I've heard a lot.
And another 47% have heard a little.
Mm.
So most people have at least some awareness.
Okay, so they know it's out there, but the optimism isn't quite keeping pace.
Exactly. And that's really our mission for this deep dive, isn't it? To unpack that hesitation. We need to figure out, where is this caution really concentrated? And crucially, what kinds of people, which demographics, are driving this feeling?
Right. It sounds like there's a real split in how the world's looking at its tech future. So let's start with that main finding, because it really does seem to push back against that narrative of constant tech enthusiasm. When people were asked, how do you feel about more AI in daily life? The strong feelings lean towards worry.
Decidedly so, yeah. Across all 25 countries, the median figure for people saying they were more concerned than excited was 34%.
34% more concerned and excited.
Only 16%. That's the median for those more excited than concerned.
Wow, so more than double, a 2-to-1 ratio favoring concern globally.
Pretty much. But, it's also important to look at the biggest group.
Ah, right. It wasn't just excited versus concerned, was it?
No. The largest single group actually was the middle ground. A median of 42% said they were equally concerned and excited.
42%. So not indifferent, but conflicted.
Exactly. That's a huge chunk of the global population basically saying, we see the potential upsides, but we also see the potential downsides. They're wrestling with it.
A state of, cognitive dissonance about AI.
You could put it that way. And it really underlines the overall cautious mood.
Yeah, because if you look just at pure excitement.
It's quite striking. In none of the 25 countries surveyed did more than 3 in 10 adults say they were mainly excited.
Nowhere, not one country.
Nope. Enthusiasm is basically a minority view everywhere, according to this survey.
Okay, so the overall picture is caution, with a big group feeling ambivalent. Let's get more specific then. If the global median for concern is 34%, where is that feeling really strongest? Which countries are driving the anxiety?
Well, what's fascinating is where the concern really peaks. It tends to be in established high-income nations.
Really? Like where?
Well, you see, about half the adults in both the U.S. and Italy hitting the 50% mark, 50% saying they're more concerned than excited.
Half the population in the U.S. and Italy.
Yeah. And Greece is right up there, too, at 47%. We also saw pretty high levels in Australia, 49%, and Brazil at 48%.
Australia, Brazil. So it's not just Europe and North America, but still, developed or larger economies seem more worried.
It does seem that way. It suggests the unease isn't just about, playing catch-up with technology.
Right. It's maybe something deeper about societal impact, even in places that are arguably benefiting from tech already.
That's a good point. It could be concerns about job displacement, quality of work, maybe even social control or political impacts, not just unfamiliarity.
Okay, so the U.S., Italy, Greece, Australia showing high concern. But where's the other side of the coin? Is there anywhere that bucks the trend, where excitement is higher or concern is lower?
There's one clear outlier. Yeah. South Korea.
South Korea.
Okay. They reported the lowest level of concern out of all the countries. Only 16% there said they were mainly concerned.
16%. That's the same as the global median for excitement.
Exactly. So it suggests a really different level of maybe integration or acceptance of AI there compared to almost everywhere else surveyed.
That's a fascinating contrast. Okay, so we have the overall caution, geographical hotspots. Let's get into the demographics you mentioned. Because this concern, it's not spread evenly within those countries, is it? Who is feeling the most worried?
No, it's definitely not even. And this is where we see what you might call the Great Divide really clearly. Age, gender, education level. They are major factors.
Okay, let's start with age. I guess we might expect older adults to be a bit more wary, but how big is the difference?
It's not just a bit wary, it's often a fundamental split. In 18 of the 25 countries, older adults, let's say ages 50 and over, are significantly more concerned than younger people.
18 out of 25. That's most places.
Yeah. The gap really shows, like two different worldviews almost colliding when it comes to AI.
Can you give us a really clear example? One that highlights that gap.
Sure. Let's look at Greece again. We already flagged it as a high concern country overall, right?
Right, 47% overall concern.
Okay, now break it down by age. Among Greeks aged 50 and older, a huge 59% are more concerned than excited. 59.
Wow, nearly 6 in 10. And the younger group?
For those aged 18 to 34 in Greece, only 18% are mainly concerned. 18.
Goodness, 59% versus 18%. That's a massive difference, more than 40 percentage points.
It's immense.
But hang on, does this just mean, ignorance breeds fear? Are older people just less aware? Or is it something else? Like maybe having seen more economic shifts, they're more realistic about disruption.
That's the key question, isn't it? And the data gives us a clue. Age connects very strongly not just to concern, but also to awareness.
Ah, okay. How so?
Well, younger adults, those under 35, in pretty much every country surveyed, are far more likely to say they've heard a lot about AI compared to those 50 and older.
So the digital natives are just more plugged in.
Seems like it. Take Greece again. 68% of the young adults there had heard a lot about AI. For the older group, it was only 20%.
68 versus 20% awareness. Okay. So it looks like more exposure, maybe more daily use, correlates with less concern.
It certainly seems that way. While lower exposure, maybe combined with that historical perspective you mentioned, might fuel the worry.
Interesting. Okay, so age is a huge factor. What about gender? You mentioned that too.
Yes, gender is another important line here. In many of the countries, women are more likely than men to say they are mainly concerned about AI's increasing use.
Okay. Any thoughts on why that might be? Perceived risks?
It could be a few things, maybe perceptions around vulnerability or potential impacts on specific job sectors or concerns about algorithmic bias, perhaps.
Do you have a specific country example for the gender gap?
The UK is a pretty clear case. In the United Kingdom, 47% of women said they were more concerned than excited.
47% of women. And men?
For men in the UK, it was 32%.
Okay, 47 versus 32. That's a notable difference, 15 points.
It is significant, yeah. Suggests women might be perceiving greater risks or maybe just weighing the risks and benefits differently.
Right. So we have age, gender. What about education? Does that track with concern levels?
It does, yeah. There's a definite pattern. Generally speaking, people with less formal education tend to be more concerned than excited about AI compared to people with higher levels of education.
Okay. And does that connect to digital access or usage?
Absolutely. It seems to intersect directly. The survey also found that people who report using the internet almost constantly are also much more likely to be mainly excited about AI.
Ah, so it paints a picture, doesn't it? It seems like the groups who are perhaps already more integrated into the digital world, the younger, the more educated, the constant internet users, they tend to be more optimistic.
That's generally the trend we see.
Whereas the caution, the overall global caution we started with, seems to be carried more heavily by groups who might feel less connected or perhaps more vulnerable to the changes. Older adults, women, those with less formal education.
That sums up the demographic picture really well. And you see this overlap, particularly in those high concern countries we mentioned, like the US, Italy, and Greece, where the overall mood tilts pretty sharply towards worry.
Okay, so we have this global caution driven disproportionately by certain demographics and peaking in some major high-income nations. What does this all mean for, say, trying to govern this technology? Regulators must be watching this public mood.
Well, that brings us to a really critical final piece of the puzzle. Trust. Institutional trust.
Trust in government or companies.
Specifically, trust in their country to regulate AI effectively. The survey found a fascinating link here.
What's the link?
Basically, how excited you are about AI tracks pretty closely with how much you trust your country's ability to regulate it.
So the more excited people are, the more they trust the regulators.
Generally, yes. People who said they were more excited about AI were also significantly more likely to say they trust their country to manage the technology well.
That seems counterintuitive, maybe, or maybe not. If you're optimistic, you trust it'll be handled.
It's a strong correlation. And think about it in those high concern countries like the US and Italy, places where political polarization or distrust in institutions might already be quite high.
Right. If you don't trust the government on other things.
Why would you trust them to handle something as powerful and transformative as AI? The data from Greece really highlighted this gap.
Ah, yes. Greece again. What was the difference there?
It was stark. In Greece, the group who were mainly excited about AI, they were 35 percentage points more likely to trust national regulation compared to the group who were mainly concerned.
35 points. That's a huge gap in trust based purely on whether you're excited or concerned about the tech itself.
Massive.
Yeah.
It really underscores how attitudes towards the technology and attitudes towards governance are tangled together.
So that leaves us with a really provocative question for you, the listener, to think about what's driving what here? Does being optimistic about AI make people automatically trust that their government can handle it, like a sort of tech optimism halo effect?
Or is it the other way around? Does a fundamental lack of trust in government, a pre-existing distrust, actually fuel the concern about AI running wild? Because you don't believe anyone's effectively steering the ship.
Yeah, which comes first? The excitement or the trust? It seems like they're deeply linked when we face these kinds of big technological shifts.
A really critical relationship, definitely one to watch as regulators scramble to keep up with the pace of innovation.
Absolutely. And a perfect place, I think, to wrap up this deep dive. We'll see you next time.